There is a moment that happens in millions of homes every single night. The lights go out, the house gets quiet, and just as you finally begin to drift off to sleep, you hear the soft patter of little feet coming down the hallway. A small hand reaches for yours in the dark. A warm body presses close, and a tiny voice whispers the words you have heard 100 times before. Can I sleep with you? Maybe you scoop them up without a second thought. Maybe you feel a flicker of frustration, wondering why, after everything you have tried, your child still cannot seem to sleep alone. Maybe you lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling with your child curled against you, asking yourself what you might be doing wrong. Here is what nobody tells you. You are not doing anything wrong. In fact, what your child is doing in that moment is one of the most sophisticated, deeply human things a small person can do. They are communicating something real, something important, something that, if you understand it, will change the way you see your child forever. Stay with me, because what I am about to share is not what most parenting books will tell you. Let's go back about 300,000 years. For the vast majority of human history, sleeping alone was not a comfort issue. It was a survival issue. Children who wandered away from their caregivers at night did not survive long enough to pass on their genes. Children who stayed close, who sought warmth and proximity in the darkness, were the ones who lived. That instinct is not gone. It is sitting right there inside your child's brain, ancient and powerful and completely real. When your child reaches for you in the night, they are not manipulating you. They are not spoiled. They are not broken. They are doing exactly what 300,000 years of human biology has wired them to do. Their nervous system is working perfectly. But that is just the beginning of the story. Modern neuroscience has given us something remarkable: the ability to actually look inside a child's developing brain and understand what is happening during sleep and during moments of fear or separation. And what researchers have found is both humbling and profound. A child's brain is not a small adult brain. It is structurally, chemically, and functionally different in ways that matter enormously for how we interpret their behavior at night. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for logic, self-regulation, and the ability to tell yourself, "I am safe, nothing is wrong," does not finish developing until a person is in their mid-20s. Your 5-year-old is working with a brain that simply does not yet have the full architecture required to self-soothe through fear the way an adult can. When the lights go out and your child is alone in their room, their amygdala, the brain's alarm system, can fire signals of threat and danger that feel completely real, even when there is nothing there. And the part of the brain that would normally calm that alarm down is still under construction. What calms it instead? Your presence, your smell, the sound of your breathing, the warmth of your body. You are not just emotionally comforting to your child. You are neurologically regulating them. You are, in a very literal sense, the off switch for their fear response. This is called co-regulation, and developmental psychologists consider it one of the most critical mechanisms in healthy childhood development. Children do not learn to self-regulate by being left alone to figure it out. They learn to self-regulate by repeatedly experiencing regulation in the presence of a calm, loving adult. Every time you are there in the night, every time you reach back, every time your heartbeat steadies theirs, you are building the neural pathways that will one day allow them to do that for themselves. You are not creating dependency. You are building independence, just on a timeline that the brain, not the culture, actually supports. Now here is something that might surprise you even more. Research on attachment theory, pioneered by the British psychiatrist John Bowlby, and later expanded by Mary Ainsworth and decades of researchers who followed, has consistently shown that children who have secure attachments to their caregivers are actually more independent, not less. They explore more boldly. They recover from setbacks more quickly. They form healthier relationships. They demonstrate greater emotional resilience in the face of stress. The secure base, that reliable, available, warm presence that a child knows they can return to, does not make children clingy. It makes them brave. When your child seeks you out at night, they are telling you that you are their secure base. That is not a problem to be fixed. That is one of the greatest gifts a parent can give. But let us go even deeper, because there is something else happening that very few people talk about. Sleep is not passive. Your child's brain is extraordinarily active while they sleep. Memories are being consolidated. Emotions from the day are being processed. Neural connections are being pruned and strengthened. Growth hormone is being released. The immune system is being regulated. Sleep is, in many ways, the most important work a child's brain and body does all day. And here is what researchers have found. The quality of that sleep, the depth of it, the restorative power of it, is directly influenced by felt safety. A child who feels unsafe, whose nervous system is humming with low-level anxiety, will not cycle through the deep stages of sleep in the same way. Their body stays partially alert, partially vigilant, even while they are technically asleep. This is an adaptive response. It is the brain saying, I cannot fully let go because I am not sure I am protected. When your child is close to you, when they can feel your presence and smell your skin and hear your breath, their nervous system receives a signal that it is safe to go deep, safe to fully rest, safe to let the brain do its most important nighttime work. So when your child crawls into your bed, what they are really saying is, I need to feel safe enough to truly sleep. And that is not a behavioral problem. That is a profound act of biological wisdom. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This all sounds beautiful in theory, but what about the very real, very exhausted parent who has not had a good night's sleep in months? What about boundaries? What about eventually, at some point, helping your child sleep independently? These are real questions, and they deserve real answers. Here is the truth. There is no universal timeline for when a child should sleep alone. The pressure many parents feel around this, the idea that a child must be in their own bed by a certain age or something has gone wrong, is largely a cultural invention, and a fairly recent one at that. In most of the world, co-sleeping in some form is the norm, not the exception. Japanese families often sleep together well into a child's middle years. Many indigenous cultures around the world view sleeping in proximity as simply what families do. The Western ideal of the solitary sleeper in a separate room is, from a global and historical perspective, the outlier. That does not mean it is wrong. It means it is a choice, not a developmental necessity. If you want to help your child transition to sleeping more independently, that process goes most smoothly when it is gradual, warm, and child-led, rather than abrupt, frightening, or driven by a deadline. It looks like staying in the room until they fall asleep, then slowly over weeks, moving a little farther away each night. It looks like a consistent, predictable bedtime routine that signals safety before you even enter the room. It looks like a child who trusts deeply and completely that you will come if they need you, which, paradoxically, makes them need you a little less. Fear-based approaches, letting a child cry alone until the crying stops, work by extinguishing the signal, not by resolving the need. The child stops calling out not because they feel safer, but because they have learned at a neurological level that calling out does not bring relief. The need is still there. It has just gone underground. Responsive approaches take longer. They require more patience, but they build something that lasts. Let me leave you with this. There will come a night sooner than you think when your child does not come down the hallway, when they stay in their own bed, in their own room, without needing you to be there. And you will feel something complicated in that moment. Pride, perhaps, relief. And underneath both of those, something quieter and a little bit tender. A recognition that something is ending. The small feet on the floor in the middle of the night will one day stop. The tiny hand reaching for yours in the dark will eventually reach for other things, other people, other adventures. The child who could not bear to be apart from you will become a person who can carry you with them everywhere they go, even when you are not in the room. That is the destination, and the path to it is not distance. The path to it is connection so deep and so certain that your child finally, eventually, feels safe enough to let go. So tonight, if you hear those footsteps coming down the hall, you do not have to feel frustrated. You do not have to feel like you are doing something wrong. You can feel what this actually is, a small person who loves you completely, whose brain is working exactly as it should, who has chosen you above all other options in all the world as the place where they feel most safe. That is not a burden. That is the whole point.